Welcome to the Nuff Said Podcast. This is episode 8, The Hub. I'm your host, Rectangular Rob Southgate, and with me is...
Joking Jack Wingrosky.
Joking Jack. Hey, Jack, how are you doing today?
I'll let you know.
Oh, he's joking already.
Hey.
Nobody said the jokes were funny, folks.
Hey, they don't have to be. They just have to be jokes.
You've lived your life by that, haven't you?
Absolutely. All my punchlines have no punchlines.
So let's jump in here. So the very first thing that we saw, we're going to talk about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. We're not talking Thor till next week.
What?
That's next week. This week we got to focus. We're doing Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. episode 8, The Hub. Actually, it's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. episode 7, but we're on episode 8, and it's all so confusing. Okay, forget all that. It's The Hub. So what I want to point out first is we saw a new intro from Marvel. Did you notice that?
No. What do you mean?
Okay, the very beginning where it flashes the pictures of comics and it has the Marvel logo, it was different on this, and I was reading that it's also different on Thor. It's the first time they've changed it in like 11 years. And the reason they changed it is when that was originally created, it was created because of the Spider-Man movies and probably X-Men. So it has a lot of X-Men and Spider-Man in there. But now, being what Marvel is, they changed the focus of the images that you were seeing, and they changed the logo just slightly. So that's the new Marvel logo that we're going to see on the front of everything for a while.
Yeah, they did it. I just checked it out right quick, and it's a little more like steel stamp, and they're still kind of going through the pages, but it's a little update. I totally did not even notice that.
Now, did you go to see Thor?
I did not. I was actually had plans to see it tonight, but because of some schedule errors and sitting at a car rental place for way longer than I should have been,
Just not happening.
Just not happening.
Yeah.
So it looks like either this weekend or possibly Wednesday.
Okay. Well, we can't record the next episode until we've both seen Thor. I resisted because I want to see it fresh before watching the next episode because I know they tie in together. So I didn't go. I didn't go to that marathon. I didn't go see it in 3D this weekend. I seem to be, other than you, one of the only people in the world that hasn't seen it. I'm going this week. So if you're going Wednesday, I'll try to aim for maybe Wednesday, and why don't we record on Thursday?
And it sounds good to me. I'll
peek
try
behind
to
the
do
curtain
it,
there.
I'll try to do it earlier this weekend.
Okay. Yeah, whatever. I mean, we'll record after they show the next episode anyway, so we'll be fresh off Thor. We'll do some discussion about that, and then we'll jump right into S.H.I.E.L.D. So this week, since you didn't see it, you didn't get to see that logo change there, let's just really focus on what was happening here, because there was a lot in this episode.
Oh, yeah, big time.
So it starts out with Coulson getting interrogated, kind of reminiscent of when Black Widow was getting interrogated.
Right, from...
The Avengers.
The Avengers, right.
Right. And, actually what I was being reminded of is there's a movie from the 70s called The Marathon Man with Dustin Hoffman. And there's a famous scene when he's getting interrogated, and the guy interrogating him is going to pull the teeth out of his head, and he's got these pliers, and he just keeps saying, "Is it safe?" And I kept thinking they were going to do that to Coulson, but they didn't. So in my head, I heard, "Is it safe?"
Actually, the funny thing is I read a lot of the Robert Ludlum novels.
Sure.
So the thing I keep thinking of is, okay, they're gonna poke and prod him a little bit, and how does he save the day? But yeah, flashbacks of Jason Bourne and some of those. That's kind of where my brain was.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it totally had all those signs. I don't know. I was watching that knowing that he was going to get out of it. It didn't feel like the stakes were very high, but I did like it. It reminded me of like an intro to a James Bond movie or something like that.
Mm-hmm. And it was funny because when he said, they know, I thought he was pitting the guy up against the other guys, not that he actually was another
Right, that he was a
agent.
double agent. Right.
Right. It was like, wow, hey, that was pretty... And plus, it's actually kind of cool to see Coulson take a more active role. I really felt like they were setting him up as a behind the scenes guy, but it looks like he's going to be in more of the front lines now.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
The other thing is with that, I'm sorry, I'm sitting here thinking about this. I seemed a little spaced there. I'm thinking about this, that character that was the double agent, I have a feeling we're going to see him pop up again.
is he like the guy in the tree from Get Smart? He always like pops up in the mailbox or
Wait, does that mean Coulson is going to be Jaime if he's a living robot?
not Coulson, the other guy.
Who else is a living robot on there?
Well, it's not the living. Oh, yeah. I get you. No, I was talking about the guy in the tree. You're talking about if Coulson's Jaime.
Coulson's Jaime, and then that guy will be the guy in the tree.
Oh, that would be hilarious.
Fitz and Simmons have to be Max and 99.
I don't know if Fitz is got enough chutzpah to be.
Sorry, Ward, missed it by that much.
Although he was showing a little bit of manhood this episode, huh?
Yeah, okay. When this whole thing started, here, we're just going to jump into it. Forget everything else. We're not going to go through the episode. Basically, Fitz and Ward get put together, and they have to deal with this situation that basically there's no extraction for. They're expecting them to die or figure it out, basically.
Right.
And when this thing started, my first inclination was actually kind of negative. Even though, as I've said, I've been liking how things are progressing. I'm liking the direction it's going. I'm seeing so much improvement. I'm seeing where it can go. And with this, boy, when it started off and they put them together, I thought, oh my gosh, it's like an episode of MacGyver or one of those shows. Like, oh, we've got the goofy character and the hero, and wackiness is going to ensue. But you know what? That actually went by the wayside pretty quickly in that scene in the bar. And once again, the scene in the bar was very 80s TV again, where it was kind of losing me. But then when it turned out that Fitz did the pinch and caused the electrical to go out, I really liked that. I thought that was really cool. And from that point on, in the rest of the episode, he actually was holding his own. He deserved to be there.
Right. He's a full-fledged agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. Supposedly they've all gone through this training. Now, yeah, these are the techie guys, but, they've got some bite. It's much like being in the Army band. Yeah, we're in the band, but we went through our basic training. We're ready to go. Are
you implying that the guys in the band are cool? Guys in the Army band are cool, but guys in band? I was in the band. I don't know how cool we were.
I don't know. I always felt cool.
Jack, I know you. I don't know how cool you are.
I don't have to be cool. I was an Army trumpet player. I was living the life.
True.
I win. I gotta say.
I win.
In life contests, dude, I win. I played trumpet for the Army. It was a blast. But what I'm saying is...
I win.
What I'm saying is, Fitz has the training. He's not your tip of the arrow, but he's part of the arrow. And really, all through the episode, he's like, you know what? I'm here. I wish he'd stepped up to the plate with Simmons a little bit more, but... it is what it is. They're going to play that off for quite a while, the little kind of cuteness and embarrassment, but that's TV.
Right.
I want to get back to the beginning.
Okay.
Where
let's jump all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, why not?
Yeah, why not?
It's a third stream consciousness. We're just going to go wherever it goes.
Yeah, let's do it.
The Zen will take us. Well, back to Sky. They get to the hub, and the hub is, one of their biggest centers, apparently. They made reference to some other things, but it is
this one is really an important center. Like, they were all excited to go there because of the importance of this center.
Right. It's like, it's almost like R&R for goofy agents. Like, what was like Ryland 7 or something like up in Star Trek, where they all wanted to go. And
Right, right.
I'm sure I pronounced that wrong, and somebody will call us out. Hopefully, if you're out there. But they were all
Oh, and I'm
excited. It's
sure there are
like,
Trekkies listening.
they've gotten to this big center, but they won't tell them anything because they're only level 7. Sky isn't even a level, so she gets locked out. Now they're asking her to do stuff and stand by with absolutely no information, and we get the theme of the whole episode: trust the system.
Right.
And here's where they started to lose me. Is I started, and I think we all started to empathize with Sky. You know what? You can't trust Shield.
Right. Well, see, this is what I found interesting in this episode, because they kind of skated a line here. You're exactly right. They were actually risking losing me with that, where it's like, trust Shield, they're the good guys. But we've seen that the rest of the world doesn't necessarily view them as the good guys. And as this went on, and I also wasn't totally into Sky in this episode. I thought she was kind of comic relief. I think she's had a stronger part in other episodes, but she was the voice of the fan there. And by the end of the episode, when Coulson flipped and was like, hey, we got to trust ourselves, I thought that was really strong because it showed, yeah, S.H.I.E.L.D. is not this super good, all-encompassing, we all love S.H.I.E.L.D. organization. It's a lot of bureaucracy. It's got a lot of problems. And Coulson's team is kind of, on the verge of calling it out on that. Like that team could very well go rogue at some point.
Well, I think this proves that not only they did go rogue by even just going.
Oh yeah, they totally went rogue in this. What am I saying?
Yeah, I mean, look at it. They went and Sitwell was about to go off on somebody about this, and then the lead agent for this op just kind of smiles and said, this is Coulson's team. They didn't need an extraction.
Right.
Bullcrap. They needed they needed
there
a
needed
solid
to be a plan.
They didn't need a team that could go rogue. There was no reason to have non-accountability.
No, they were just setting him up there. And I couldn't quite figure out why. I couldn't figure out what the deal was there. And like Agent Hand, okay, in the comics, Agent Hand ends up as a double agent. Spoiler, she's a double agent. But then it turns out she's a triple agent. So the bad guys think that she's working for them to infiltrate the Avengers, and then it turns out that she infiltrated them to infiltrate the Avengers for the Avengers. So she's a triple agent. So I'm wondering if she's in charge of this particular event or this particular mission, and she did set them up to fail, knowing that if they are as good as Coulson thinks they are going to find their way out of it. Was she doing this? Was this the first time we're kind of given an indication that this Victoria Hand, this Agent Hand, is the Agent Hand from the comics?
Yeah, that could be. Is she setting them up for failure to try and see what she can do to the group? Or is this S.H.I.E.L.D.'s effort to, okay, you know what? You kind of have... We're not giving you permission to go rogue, but we're going to give you every reason to.
Right. Well, and the other thing is, if they had gone rogue like that, I fully would have expected Nick Fury to intervene. There should have been a call from Nick Fury. Somebody was getting their butt kicked, unless this is what he expected to happen.
Maybe so, but I think it sends a lot of conflicting signals to the fan, because which way is it going to go? I think in a 30, or 42-minute episode, I just don't want to be that confused about where the team is. I like to know where, I want my surprises to be elsewhere.
Okay.
Well,
what's really interesting,
where do they lie?
What's really interesting with this episode is you and I are kind of critical here. We're kind of picking this apart. If you read the reviews this week of this episode, and I read it from the Wall Street Journal, I read it on various blogs, it seems like the tide is turning, and people were saying they liked this episode. They think that it's all heading in the right direction. Whereas I think you and I are saying they they might have missed more than they hit with this. But the stuff they hit really well.
I think what they are hitting real well is character development. We're starting to get personally involved in the characters. We're starting to empathize with the characters. I think this was a cheaper way to get us more on the side of the team as a unit and less with the agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. as a whole.
Sure.
That the bureaucracy maybe isn't the be-all, end-all. That maybe we shouldn't be liking S.H.I.E.L.D. What we should like is this little band of outlaws within the organization.
Sure.
But to me, that's not S.H.I.E.L.D. I don't know.
Well, and, when I said that they could go rogue, you know what they did here? They really can't, because who's going to pay for that plane? Who's going to fund them to go around the country and do all this stuff? Unless they're setting them up to be a team kind of like the Avengers, where they have a little bit of autonomy. Right. Or they're expected to do that.
Well, and I think that's what they're setting it up. This may be a subtle way, and we're just getting a little picky about it. But this is the best way to set that scenario up.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so, I want to go to something vitally important in this episode. Vitally. The most important thing we saw in this episode.
Right.
How awesome did that sandwich sound?
Oh, dude, I could not believe at that point that he threw that sandwich in the water.
I almost rage quit the episode. A prosciutto with buffalo mozzarella and pesto aioli? I'm like, oh, that sounds amazing.
Yeah, you want to keep it out of the dogs? Eat it quick and shut up.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, man. And the other thing is he threw it out there into the water. It's like, yeah, but that thing smells so awesome. You know those dogs are going to pick up on something.
Right.
And he couldn't have thrown it that far.
Right. That was just, stupidity for effect. But
it was a plot device, but that sandwich was my obsession through the episode.
Dude, I left Chicago more than 21 years ago. It was 24 years ago. And there was this, it's no longer open, but there was Nejo's Deli. N-E-J-O. Nejo's Deli. And they had this Italian sub, which to this day, I still have not had an Italian sub that good. It had the Italian ganella bread and just a perfect combination of cold cuts and this Italian dressing.
Oh, yeah.
And I've looked and I've tried, a ton of subs to
Subway's not doing it for you, huh?
Oh, dude, when I saw that sub, when I saw him hold that sub, I could taste the Nejo's sub from like 30 years ago.
Oh.
It was like, you could get that and a soda for like $1.50. Oh. And it was just, I could taste it, and he chucked it. Dude.
Yeah, that's painful.
Yeah, that was just, no wonder that Fitz has this thing, I'm the super agent, when he started mocking Wade.
Right.
Which I had to say the same thing. Oh, yeah, hey, super dude,
that was my sandwich. Do you know what that sandwich was? Boy, he got his confidence quick when the sandwich came into play.
Yeah, it's like, okay, now you just really pissed me off. Or should I say, now you're just really pissed me off.
Oh, nice. Got some impressions going today.
Yeah, Barry Little, Rich Little's little brother. He's got to make it in every podcast.
No, because that'll get boring. But so far, not so boring. so far, pretty awesome.
Well, I think another big part about this episode is, okay, you've got Skye, and she wants that information. She went right outside of that system and really kind of barely got a hand slap at the end, because really why she's there is why the team found out. The only reason they found out there was no extraction was because of her.
Right.
And she chose, they ignored that a little bit at the end, but Coulson knew that between getting the information on her parents or getting the information on the team, she had a 20-second time limit. She could only get one or the other, and she saved her team.
Yeah.
And
we got to get into this whole thing with Skye and the parents. Now, they introduced it in the episode previous to this, and now they've got it here. First of all, let me get the negative out of the way first. I don't care. I cared in the last episode. In this episode, it just seemed like it was in the way, and I just didn't care. How did you feel about that?
I don't say I would go that far, but at some point, it's just this level BS. It's just, well, it's not level 7, and we just
Yeah, but
went
that's
through
all
an
that red tape from S.H.I.E.L.D. I actually kind of enjoyed that.
Well, yeah, I mean, I do, and the lingo and the compartmentalization. I can't even say it right now.
That's all right. You're
And
thinking about that sandwich.
let's get back to the sandwich. It's so much easier to pronounce. But at some point, we've just spent a whole episode figuring out why, that compartmentalization is so bad.
Sure.
And, it almost got our two lead agents, just left to die.
Right.
It's like, well, we're glad you figured it out because, hey, you're great agents.
Yeah, that was
but,
okay. That's where I just have such a problem with it.
Yeah, I don't.
Why would you sacrifice
you
Ward
don't leave a
Simmons?
man behind in any organization. That's
Or
the first
Fitz or
rule.
whatever. Yeah.
Now, if somebody calls an airstrike on themselves, okay, you know what? They're saving the people. It's on them.
Right.
They got the Medal of Honor and the accolades of their country, but you don't leave those guys.
Right.
And so that's where it starts to lose me. But there were a lot of exciting things in this episode. Some more with the bracelet and what that starts to do. Now, I think pre-show we were talking about Sitwell. And he's come in from what's the short 47?
Yeah, item 47.
Item 47. Now, they're kind of slipping him back in. Of course, I think
they're doing that in general. You're starting to see so much bleed over on these secondary characters. Everyone's waiting to see the big guys. We're not going to see the big guys, or at least not yet. We may get them here and there at some point, but it's all these S.H.I.E.L.D. agents. We're getting them in here. This is a S.H.I.E.L.D. show.
Right, and so now we're starting to see some of the tie-in. I still want to wait for the couple from item 47.
I was expecting them to show up.
Yeah, I mean, they have to at some point. So this is the process. They're bringing them in, and the funny thing is, he's still he's at least level 8. He's at least where Coulson is.
Right.
At the very end, he seemed a little out of the loop.
Well, we don't know
there was no extraction.
We don't know what
just
level.
Smiling at him like, "Hey, doofus."
Yeah, we don't know what level Coulson actually is either.
Right. That's
and
true.
we don't know how many levels there are.
He could be 8. These guys could be 9, 12. We don't know.
Right.
And they could change it or fill in the blank at any point.
Right.
But for right now, we figure, okay, he's to me, he's got to be at least as high a level as Sitwell. Now, if you look in the old Marvel Masterworks, The Strange Tales, Sitwell is brought in as like this college freshman, wet behind the ears, full of extraneous information, always talking too much, which is a much. This is a much.
Jack, I got another
character.
thing to bring up. They also, if you look on the Marvel database, Jasper Sitwell, the agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., is blonde and blue-eyed.
Yeah.
Very different than the agent we were seeing here. So go ahead. You were telling about that, but I just thought it was so funny because you were talking about that, and I looked him up, and I'm like, wait a minute.
No, that's a great visual because it's totally not what this guy is.
At
all. And he's not the bumbler. He's not the guy full of, rule, 353. But in a deeper thing, Sitwell at some point in Fury's absence takes over as director of S.H.I.E.L.D. in at least one instance that I remember.
Okay.
And so Sitwell is part of really that, top tier between Dum Dum, Sitwell, and Fury. They're like they're your top three guys in the old comics. So Sitwell could actually prove, probably much higher depending on where they want to go in the storyline.
Oh.
But that woman, she seemed like
You mean Agent Hand?
Agent Hand. Sorry, Agent Hand seemed like another level because Sitwell comes out and, like I just said, hey, I thought there was no extraction, and she just kind of smiles like she knew the entire time they didn't really need it. This is Coulson's team. At first, she's trying to play it off like they're not that good, but now we know that the organizations, they know that this team had potential, but now is fulfilling it, and and they can make their own plans.
Yeah.
I still think it was irresponsible from a tactical perspective, being the combat trumpet player that I am. However, I still think, the organization itself, I think they're kind of setting them up as more of that what Sky thinks it is.
Right.
And I don't know. I want to root for S.H.I.E.L.D, but right now I can only root for the team.
Right. Right. Well, and yeah, okay. Now that I'm done with all the negativity, let's get into what's positive. What you just said is what's positive. I think that maybe they made it a little too sunshiny in the beginning. They're already breaking that. Now we're going to start seeing this team differently. We're going to care about the team differently. And we're also going to feel differently about S.H.I.E.L.D. S.H.I.E.L.D., well, okay, think about S.H.I.E.L.D. in the Avengers. Tony Stark breaks right into their stuff, and he's like, look, you're just all built on lies here. You guys are all manipulation and lies. I don't like what's going on here. That's who these guys work for. And bringing Sky into the mix, she's breaking through that some.
Well, yes, she has to because she
and Coulson is too.
Yeah, well, that's the funny part is, Coulson was the first one to say almost the entire episode, you need to trust the system. You need to trust the system. All of a sudden, he doesn't trust the system anymore.
Yeah, push came to shove, and he went, wait a minute, this isn't happening. Bam, he's out. I thought, now, they did bring up the Tahiti thing with him again, but I thought this time they did a really interesting thing with it. I like how he hesitated when he said it's a magical place. So now he's aware something is up. And there's also something about Tahiti, because when he was talking about it with Hand, I think it was Hand he was talking about it with, she was indicating that Tahiti is something other than Tahiti, which is exactly what we thought.
Well, and he stopped himself right in the middle of a phrase. I mean, he even knows he's doing it now.
Yeah, he's very aware. I thought that was really cool. And once again, let's go back to what's good. I think that we're building something here. I think we're getting a little bit off kilter, a little bit of confusion. I think there's a little transition here. And I also know that, they're not able to go in and change things and tweak things this fast. Everything we're seeing has been in the works for a while. But I think it's, as they were progressing, they were already starting to see this stuff. I think when we get to the second half of this first season, this thing is going to really work. And I think that our views of S.H.I.E.L.D., our views of the team, our views of these characters are all going to be very different.
Yeah, I agree. And I just hope that they don't drag out the whole parent story, because now we already know that Coulson has all the information. He's just not giving it to her.
Right.
Okay, at this point, I'm thinking, okay, let's, like you say, a little tired of it. Let's get her the info. I think what's going to be plug in is Sky's going to get her info, and then she's going to hack in the system and get Coulson his info.
Right.
He tried to call it in. Hey, I need, this file, the recovery of Agent Coulson. And it's like, well, sir, you're not, you don't have access. What? I'm level 8.
Right.
I'm level 8. Of course I have
no,
this is
not
direct.
This is higher.
Right. This is, well, it said not even higher. It direct from Fury. So are we to assume that the next level from level 8 is Fury? On the other hand, Fury
I don't think so.
Fury himself is keeping this from Coulson, and here you've got the hacker sitting right in your midst.
You also know how these things are structured. Fury may not have the top clearance. He may be stuck at level 18 and there actually is a shadow that has level 19. We don't know. We know that he's the director of the whole thing, but that doesn't mean he's not answering to somebody who's got one clearance level higher than him. Because somebody has to have a clearance to be able to look up Fury.
Well, I think, again, when you look at the comics, yeah, he does have like sort of people that he answers to, but he's just like, no way. This is, Shield really answers to no one.
Sure.
I mean,
Sure, I get you.
But like you say, if it becomes a thing where they're too much outside the system and they're not protecting America and doing what America needs, I'm sure Shield has some sort of end. So it is, Fury has to deal with the congressional, the political, the for whatever reason, the publicity. But really, he does the thing that absolutely nobody else wanted to do.
Right.
Nobody has. They felt like nobody else had it what it takes. So I think the buck stops there. Not to say that he doesn't answer to anybody, but I think in this scenario, unless they want to rewrite the history, that Fury is the be-all, end-all.
Yeah. Okay, I'm in with what you're saying. And let's bring up one other thing. Did you notice, well, I'm sure you did, when they said that Coulson is acting like a robot version of himself? I think it's just one more clue.
It's got to be. They're just getting not that subtle.
Yeah, and I do think, and once again, I'm just not as knowledgeable as some on this, but the more I read about it, the more I investigate this, I really think that we're going to end up seeing him be the Vision or a character like that. He is going to evolve into something else, and it'll probably be after Avengers 2 that we're going to see that happen, or during Avengers 2.
So, what's if he is a life model decoy?
Okay.
Where does that say, does S.H.I.E.L.D. say, oh, well, even though he's an LMD, is he still Coulson? Is he still, how do you give a robot that
if he's a robot, let's say he's a robot and he is Coulson, how do we know it's not like RoboCop where they're giving him directives, although it's so sophisticated he's not aware he's getting directives. He thinks he's acting as Coulson, but decisions he's making, people he's keeping on board, the fact that he hasn't court-martialed Skye yet could be that he's being directed not to, but he's completely unaware of that.
Yeah, but we're within a system that doesn't tolerate that. The only reason it's
they're the ones pulling
is
the
because
strings.
of the existence of Coulson.
But if they're the ones pulling the strings, if Fury is the one that's controlling Coulson and knows every single move, if he is a complete puppet of Fury's, let's say, well, then it would work within the system because that's what the system is dictating. And we may have gotten a hint on that when we had the I Spy one, where they had the electronic eye that blew up in the guy's head and they had to take the woman's eye out. The way they were controlling them, that might have been just a weak version of what Coulson really is. Because Coulson could have been built after alien technology that just took it that much further.
It could be, but even though they still retained their consciousness, they knew, given a choice, they wouldn't have done what they did. Coulson, given a choice, wouldn't do what he didn't want to do. There would be at some point, even if you want a guy to go rogue, in a system like that, there would be just times where you'd want to say, hey, we need to reel this in. I don't think it would work in this scenario.
Right. I can understand that.
I really think they're going to have to rewrite history as far as the LMDs, that they're really going to have to say, well, it's an LMD, but he's kind of sentient like Data, and I hate to make a bunch of Star Trek
references.
I know. But I think, is that where you go with this? Because if that's the way they're headed, you've got to answer all those sorts of questions.
Sure.
Sure. And
and we might be just overcomplicating this thing, and none of that might be happening at all.
Well,
it might end up just being something simple or something that is been obvious, and we're just not really grasping it because we're trying so hard to figure this out.
But like you say, if you look at the posts, and I didn't on this last week, but there's a lot of people talking about those LMDs and the possibility of this. It's a big part of the original series. But, how do you have a guy leading a team, a rogue team, making these decisions when, the LMDs are really there to be expendable?
Right.
Of course, we talked about the scar last week. Well, that's easy enough to reproduce.
Right.
That doesn't, I thought maybe that would be proof, but, they could change appearance. They can change, obviously, the villain in this had a total new face by none other than Andrew Dice Clay. Oh, I'm sorry. Holy crap.
What?
I just skipped to the Blacklist.
What?
I just completely gone because the last thing I watched was the Blacklist.
Jack, you actually gave me a tiny stroke there. All of a sudden I'm like, what is he talking about? What did I miss here? Andrew Dice Clay. Okay.
When was he on the show? No, I went totally into Netherland. That's gonna have to be a big old edit.
Oh, I don't think so. Holy smoke.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I had a little ischemic stroke there.
Okay.
Can you spell ischemic?
No. So, although I wish my name began with an E and then I could be ischemic Edward Southgate. We have a listener named Edward. Edward, you are now ischemic Edward.
Actually, it starts with an I, but...
Edward, you're now changing your name to begin with an I.
How about Idward? Ischemic Idward. So anyway, so back until I had the meltdown, going back to they could have changed his appearance, and see, I told you something with the way this day has been going. Something was going to go astray.
Yeah, this is how it was going to go today. It was inevitable.
But so I think this is where they're going to have to start. They're going to have to start reeling it in. They're going to start to give us more clues about where Coulson's going. But I think Sky is going to be the one that gets us to us.
You could be right. All I know is it better not be Andrew Dice Clay now.
Now you got to watch the Blacklist because he had a little cameo in there, and it was actually really good. I enjoyed it.
That's so funny, man.
Wow. Yeah, I just it was like transference because I could like see it in my mind's eye. I was like, actually, how you can actually see the pictures?
Right.
I was like picturing it, and then I totally, went with the facial reconstruction, and that's bam.
You went to the Dice Man.
I went to the Dice Man because here's the funny thing about doing these podcasts and these shows. I haven't been like a regular like TV watcher, like episodic kind of nature. I'll like sit and watch the History Channel all day long up until the glut of some of these reality shows.
Okay.
But I got Hulu because I wanted to be able to kind of go back and
check out some of these other things. Sure.
And see when I wanted to see it. Well, if there's all these other things on there, so I've been watching The Blacklist, Legend of Sleepy Hollow.
Yeah, that's a good one too, isn't it?
Oh, it's awesome. I really didn't think it would.
Oh, there's a good one coming up this weekend too. Almost Human. Watch for that one. That's going to be great.
Well, see, this was just the opening episode, and it just happened to start playing. Now there's another one. There's another one on there that started playing another series just on Hulu called Wrong Mans.
Yeah, I saw an ad for that. I haven't seen it yet. Did you watch it?
Well, I was working on something else, and it kept playing in the background. I thought, this seems like it could be funny. So, this is really tearing my mind in like 3 or 4 dimensions at once because.
So that's why you're making Dice references.
Yeah, I'm going all over the place. But,
so you know what, Jack? You brought up something really great. Let's talk about news. Netflix.
All right, news.
Well, I want to get into this Netflix thing. This has been the big buzz. You're talking about Hulu. You're talking about this like original programming stuff. Now, Hulu's original programming, a lot of it is actually like foreign TV, BBC, other countries using their TV shows and putting them on Hulu as original content.
Right.
Netflix is creating original programming.
And
So,
by who?
so like they did. We've been watching Orange is the New Black, which is fantastic, not appropriate for kids. So, Jack, you're not allowed. Uh,
Oh,
they did Arrested Development, House of Cards. They've got 5 Marvel shows. Now, I think we talked about this last week, but there's been huge news on this week. The Daredevil one, that's the one I'm most excited about. Uh, I mean, I think you already knew that because I keep talking about Daredevil and how awesome Daredevil is.
I know, and I caught myself defending Ben Affleck. I told somebody the other day it wasn't his fault.
Oh no, I don't think it was either.
No, no, no.
No, and in fact, like I said on the first podcast when we were talking about it, the director's cut of the movie is actually really good.
Yeah, and I have to say, to be honest, I never thought I'd be defending Ben Affleck, but that and what
But
was
he's
the
Batman
latest movie?
now.
I know it just seems wrong. But
He's
then
Batman.
I know. Well, he did what was that movie he just came out with that was set in Iran?
Argo.
Argo. And that was very enjoyable. So if it's anywhere near Argo, Batman could have some promise.
Sure.
But
Well, okay. Let's get into this Daredevil thing. They announced who the writer producer is going to be. Well, I know it's the writer. They haven't announced like showrunner and all that. I'm sure it's going to be something from the Marvel stable. That's what they're doing with these Marvel one shots. They're bringing guys up to be producers, directors. I'm sure they're bringing writers into the mix this way. They have announced that Drew Goddard is going to write the Daredevil series. Drew Goddard has geek cred. He has worked with Joss Whedon and also with J.J. Abrams. He was one of the writers on Cloverfield, and he was also writer-director on Cabin in the Woods, which I don't know if you saw that, but that was a fantastic movie.
no, I never did see that.
Oh, you need to see Cabin in the Woods like this weekend. It's really, really great. And this is the guy that wrote it, or at least he's part of the writing team. And he's the one that's going to be leading the Daredevil project. I could not be happier about this. This is awesome news. Now, the other one that I'm not going to say is awesome news, but I'm not going to say is negative because, well, I'll explain. The Jessica Jones series. Now, I've been looking up who this Jessica Jones is. It's a character that just kind of missed my radar, but it's pretty cool. She's a secret agent, and it's going to be very much like an Alias type show. Set in the Marvel Universe. To me, that sounds really good, and I could see that tying into Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I could see, her almost like the way we saw Black Widow, her being in that kind of role and that kind of universe. I think that's
Right.
really cool. Now, the woman who is writing that, oh, I hope it's a woman. I think it is the person who wrote it's Melissa Rosenberg, and she did adaptations for the Twilight films. Right there, that sends up red flags, like those are, rough. But you know what? I don't know if her writing is what made those rough. The source material was rough. And what they wanted out of those movies is exactly what she delivered. Where I'm kind of happy about it is she also worked on, like, Dexter.
Really?
Yes, and I really like Dexter. There was a lot of great writing. I don't
Hello?
care. You've got your favorite season. You've got your, this is where it fell off the map. I don't care about any of that. As a whole, I really enjoyed that show, and I enjoyed the writing. It wasn't always note perfect. Who cares? Who cares? It was better than a lot of the garbage on TV. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
So I have hope. I think that this Melissa Rosenberg, here's a chance to do something extremely cool. She did it before, even though she was involved in Twilight. I'm not going to hold that against her.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's open for anything.
Yeah. So they're doing Luke Cage. They're doing Iron Fist. That's going to lead to The Defenders. And that also could end up giving us, well, okay, so I've been thinking about this week. If they do with these Netflix shows what they've done with the movies, this is phase one of the Netflix shows. We may get continuing series. We may get another 13 episodes of Daredevil or 13 episodes of, Luke Cage and Iron Fist. Or in phase two, we might get Heroes for Hire. So it's Luke Cage and Iron Fist. Bam, that twofer, which was a great matchup. We may get Elektra done right. How about going in phase two and making an Elektra series? Phase three, put out a movie of Daredevil Elektra. That would be killer. Not like the one that we already saw, but something that fits more with like the Frank Miller storyline. And they get the Kingpin right.
Oh, that would be awesome.
Oh, and then the Defenders, that's a really viable property. Make a movie, make a TV series, whatever you want to do. But I think we're seeing the first phase of Marvel's Netflix attack, and this gives them a little bit of autonomy that network TV doesn't give them. But at the same time, this is not going to kill their network TV stuff. I've been reading about that too. They're all in on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. The numbers are going up. The reviews are getting a little bit tighter. Thank goodness. They are still planning on an Agent Carter show, which I could not be happier about. And I don't know if you heard this, but there is Mockingbird and Cloak and Dagger shows that are out there. A Cloak and Dagger show, I am all in. I think you could really do something cool with that.
Okay, well now, some of my Marvel doesn't go really that deep, so you fill me in on the Cloak and Dagger.
Cloak and Dagger, it's a male-female character. She's Dagger, he's Cloak, he's this mystical character. You know what?
Oh, wait.
It's a big story to explain, but it's really...
Oh, God. Sorry.
It's okay, Mel Tillis.
I'm stepping all over you. That's the black and white comic, isn't it? It was like really kind of almost like a...
Like washed out?
Like film noir with, except like a Dick Tracy kind of...
I don't remember that. I just remember I used to read this one in the 80s, and it was one of these that they seemed to me like secondary characters. They weren't, your big, 5 Marvel characters that I always went to. But I really, really liked those books. When I read that, it triggered that same thing that Daredevil, Punisher, and Elektra triggered for me. Where I was like, oh, heck yeah. I want to see something with those characters. And the thing is, these stories with these characters are very different than what we see from the Avengers. Like Martha, my wife, gets bummed out by all this superhero stuff. She's like, enough. Yeah, but when you start going into stuff like Cloak and Dagger and Daredevil, you're getting into stories that are very different than, here's the Avengers, aliens are attacking, we're going to save the day, Earth is saved. It's getting further away from that and getting into deeper, character-driven, I'm going to say deep again, stories. I can't wait. I think that is really awesome, and I really hope that stuff comes to be.
Yeah, and I think one of the strong things about that is you'll get true numbers, and you won't have to worry about that network slot.
That's right.
Or
you're running 13 episodes, done.
Yeah. Much like the early cable shows, so many things came in that cable format that you couldn't do on network TV. And I think these are the kind of, maybe, cable kind of changed what you could put on TV.
Yeah.
But I think Netflix and Hulu are changing what you can market these things as.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm actually going to aggressively go to Netflix and try to get them to sponsor our show because, they fit with our listeners so beautifully. The people listening to a show like this or listening to the other podcasts we have, they're going back and they're watching, The Killing for the first time. It's just announced today that Netflix picked up the final season of The Killing. This is huge news. AMC had ditched it. It's gonna live. It's gonna get a chance to finish out that story. And everybody that listens to us, those are the people that would be watching a show like that. Our fans are the ones that are going to want to see Luke Cage and Iron Fist. You know? I guarantee you there are people listening here that are totally with me in the idea of let's have phase 2 bring the Punisher in and do it right. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah. No, I totally agree.
I'd also like to see an Elektra done right. That movie was the Elektra movie was atrocious. That was a mistake. It's kind of like Catwoman. Catwoman was atrocious. There was a great Catwoman story. There was a great Elektra story. Give Elektra a series. Or, well, I don't think she can hold a single movie without having the depth of the series behind it. But, man, Marvel could build this stuff like crazy that way.
Yeah.
And continue with their animated movies, because their animated movies are really good too. They have so much to mine here and so many different things to do with it. Anything that seems a little more cartoony, make it a cartoon. Or
Right.
for specific storylines, make it a cartoon. World War Hulk, that was awesome. You know what I'd love to see a live action version? Sure. Is it going to happen? I think it's unlikely. I think that would be a tough sell. I think there are great Hulk storylines that could happen, but I think that's a tough sell. But as an animated film, I was down with it, man. I loved it. I don't know if you watched
Yeah,
that. You
that's
didn't
gonna.
watch that one either, did you? Oh,
I think
Jack.
that's just going to give us a lot of great options.
Yeah, I do too. All right, I'm off my soapbox. I just really wanted to talk about that Netflix thing because, man, that's just awesome news. Hiring Drew Goddard, hiring Melissa Rosenberg, they are going in the right direction. My dream is that either Vince Gilligan or somebody from his camp gets hired to take the Punisher. I think, Vince Gilligan, who did Breaking Bad, I think we would have an amazing series out of that. So, all right. I think I'm done. Jack, you got anything more?
No, I think that does it for me.
All right. I know we're going to have a heck of a lot to talk about on the next episode because we're both going to see Thor. I hope everybody listening goes out and sees Thor so we don't spoil anything. And then the next episode ties in heavily to the movie, from what I understand. And all signs point to all signs point to good for this next episode. A rumor I heard is you were talking about the couple in item 47. I heard that the girl, the one that gets hired to work with the agent, the female, I can't think of her name. I'm drawing a blank right now. That she is back as that agent in the next episode.
Oh, very cool.
That's what I heard. So fingers crossed. I hope she makes an appearance. That would be really, really cool. Plus, we know that little bit of backstory about her, so that'll make it fun to watch. Even if they don't make a reference, but just kind of have a little Easter egg in there about it, that would be a lot of fun. All right. We're done. Thank you, everybody, for listening to Nuff Said. This is the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Marvel-centric fan podcast. Find us on iTunes. Make sure you review us. We need reviews. Rate reviews. Give stars. Whatever you can do. There's some hater out there that gave us a couple of negative reviews. I don't know, man. Everyone else is giving really positive. Throw us some positive. Let's offset that negative. Stitcher you can find us on. There's actually we're all over the place. You can find us on all sorts of different platforms now. And people are listening. Join in the conversation on Facebook. You can find us at Nuff Said Podcast. Just type that in. Or you can go to our homepage, which is Southgate Media Group, where we feature all the different podcasts that I'm sure we've made references to here. Lots of fun stuff on those shows. And you can sample them. You can listen to different episodes. You don't have to subscribe there. But if you love it, get on iTunes and subscribe. It really helps us out. And most important, today, we added donate buttons because we need to pay the bills. And if we don't get some money coming in, I have to go back to work.
Oh, no.
Yeah, we don't want that. I don't want that. Jack, you're probably like, yeah. You go back to work. Scumbag. But it would really hinder things because I spend so much time editing and working on the business. We need to keep it alive. So please, if you're enjoying what we're doing, hit the donate button. There's one for each show, and there's one at the main page. So anything you could do would be greatly appreciated. And if you don't do it, that's fine too, because, hey, we're giving you the free funny here.
That's right.
That's right. You can follow me on Twitter at rsouthgate. And Jack, you are at
Jay Wengroski.
All right, and we'll just keep sending things out and updating. And there's been just so much lately. I've been tweeting and Facebooking messages like crazy. So join in the conversation. We want to hear from you. That's it. I am Rectangular Rob Southgate.
I am Ischemic Ichabod Crane.
Ischemic Ichabod. Wait a minute. What was you were joking, Jack?
That's right.
I'll go with that. I'll go with Ischemic Ichabod.
I thought after my attack, we just kind of go with it.
Can we go with Ischemic Edward?
Sure.
No, we'll go with Ischemic Ichabod. All right, that's it, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. Go out, see Thor. We'll see you next week. Nuff said.
Nuff said.